This is the vegetarian ark.
Ity zany a dia toerana amin'ny mihinana zava-maniry.
Vegetarian ark. The hour to talk.
Fotoana zay resahana ny amin'ny fihinanana zava-maniry.
Are you ready?
Vonona ve nareo?
Yes.
Now I have 3 things to go through.
Misy zavatra anankitelo zay ho ataontsika zany a.
What does the Bible say?
Dia ny hoe inona no lazain'ny Baiboly?
What does the Spirit prophecy say?
Inona no lazain'ny fanahy faminanina?
What does science say?
Ary inona no lazain'ny siansa?
Okay, I'm going to go through it in that order.
Zay zany a no jerentsika arakarak'izay filaharan'izay.
I was over in Poland.
Tany a Polonina
And there were a group of young people gathered together to do evangelism all summer.
Ary nisy atokona tanora zany a hanao fitoriana ny filazantsara nandritra ny fotoam-pialatsasatra loataona.
There was about 20 people there. You know, older students. About 20 people.
Roapolo teo eo no tanora teo zany a.
And I had a kind of a devotional hour every morning.
Dia isaky ny maraina dia manao ohatran'ny méditation fandinihana ny tenin'Andriamanitra miaraka izahay.
After the first day or two,
Ary taoriny ny andro voalohany ny andro faharoa
a girl came to me.
dia nisy zazavavy ray nanantona.
She said, I'm not a vegetarian.
Dia niteny izy manao hoe izaho a dia tsy végétarien.
Can you explain to me from the Bible that we should be vegetarian?
Azonao hazavaina amiko avy amin'ny Baiboly ve fa tokony ho végétarien? Namba mazava amintsika zay le teny zay.
I said, you know, every student sitting here has the same question in their mind.
Dia hoe azy taminy hoe mba fantatro ve fa ireo mpianatra rehetrarehetra ireo a dia manana an'izany fanontaniana zany ihany koa ao an-tsainy.
So tomorrow I will spend an hour and talk to all of you about that subject.
Karapitso zany dia andany ora anankiray ary resaka aminareo rehetrarehetra ireo any mahakasika an'izay.
I did it.
Dia nataoko zany.
She became a vegetarian.
Ary dia lasa végétarien izy.
Now, it's interesting.
Tena maliny zany.
What was the original diet?
Fantatsika hoe inona moa ny sakafo tany am-piantohana.
Genesis 1:29.
Fantatsika ao ny Genesis toko voalohany ny andininy fa 7:20.
Fruits and grains, seeds.
Fantatsika ny voankazo ny voan-javatra.
And what was the animal food?
Ary inona no sakafo
What were the animals to eat?
inona no hohanin'ny biby?
They were to eat the vegetables.
Io zany mihinana ny zava-maniry.
Then after sin,
Taorian'ny fahotana nefa
Genesis 3:18,
ny toko fahatelo ny andininy fahavalo ambin'ny folo
it said vegetables were added to the man's diet.
dia nomena ho fanampy ny sakafon'ny olombelona ny anana famboly.
What is the diet going to be like in heaven, in the new earth?
Manahoana indray no sakafontsika rehefa any an-danitra ny amin'ilay tany vaovao.
There's going to be no death there,
Azo antoka fa tsisy fahafatesana any.
so it has to be a vegetarian diet.
Azo antoka zany fa zava-maniry no sakafo
Now,
végétarien.
there were special groups in the Bible, as the Israelites had special diet.
Ao Baiboly dia misy atokon'olona zay nanana sakafo hohanina manokana ihany koa.
Israelites had manna.
Ohatra zany ny zanak'Israely dia nanana ny mana.
Okay, so there are special groups that had the vegetarian diet.
Dia nisy atokon'olona nanana sakafo zava-maniry fotsiny.
What does 1 Corinthians 10:11 say?
Inona indray ano no lazain'ny Korintianina voalohany amintsika.
Let me go lift this one up.
Andeha hosokafatsika ny Baiboly.
1 Corinthians 10
Korintianina voalohany toko 10
and the 11th verse.
ary ny andininy faraka ambin'ny folo. Ndeo jerentsika Korintianina voalohany toko 10 ny andininy faraka ambin'ny folo.
Now all these things happened unto them for examples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come.
Ary izany dia nantsoa azy mba ho anatra sady voasoratra izany ho fananarana antsika izay niara ny faran'izao tontolo izao.
So the Israelites were examples to us.
Ka ohatra ho antsika izany ireo zanak'Israely ireo.
You remember some of them lusted after the flesh of Egypt.
Ary fantatsika ihany koa ny tantara no izy ireo tany Egypta.
And that caused problems.
Ary niteraka olana izany.
Now, the remnant church is to be led from spiritual Egypt to spiritual Canaan by a prophet, according to Hosea 12:13.
Ka ny fiangonana sisa ihany koa zany dia tokony hanao an'izay fanandramana ara-panahy miala avy tao Egypta ho any amin'ny tany Kanana izay araka ny voalaza amin'ny Hosea 12:12 any 7:7.
The Israelites were led from Egypt to Canaan with a special diet.
Nisy sakafo manokana nomenany zanak'Israely raha niala tao Egypta izy ho any tany Kanana.
This is an example of the last day church, spiritual Israel, being led to Canaan, also with a special diet.
Ohatra ho an'ny Israely ara-panahy ihany koa zany raha miala ao amin'ny Egypta izy mba ho any amin'ny Kanana ara-panahy.
Okay, now, when meat was allowed,
rehefa mena lalana ihinan-kena zany
only clean meat was allowed.
dia mazava ho azy fa ny hena madio no azo nohanina.
Leviticus 3:17 tells you.
Fantatsika ao amin'ny Leviticus 3:7
Yes, you should eat the fat of the bull.
fa tsy tokony hihinana ny tavy na ny jabora isika.
But Leviticus 11 tells you the clean and unclean meats.
Fantatsika ny Leviticus 2:10 milaza ny madio sy ny tsy madio.
Yeah. Now, Acts 15:20 in the New Testament, when they had the Council of Jerusalem, they reiterated that same law.
Fantatsika fa aty amin'ny testamenta vaovao indray nefa nisy ny komity be fivoriam-be dia norarana tsy hihinana raha.
Now, read Genesis 9:3-5.
Raha ohatra ka vakitsika ny Genesis 7:7 hatramin'ny 5.
After the flood,
taoriny ny safodrano
Noah coming out of the ark,
dia nivoaka ny samfiara i Noa.
flesh meat was permitted by the Lord.
Dia nomen'Andriamanitra meny tompo alalana hihinana nofo.
But that Genesis 9:3-5 in the English is hard to understand.
Amin'ny Genesis
In the English, it's hard to understand. Genesis 9:3-5.
amin'ny Genesis 7:7 hatramin'ny 5 zany dia miresaka ny mba an'izay ihany koa.
You might look it up in your language to see what it says.
Andeha hoe vakitsika ao amin'ny teny malagasy zany Genesis 7 ny andininy 7 ka hatramin'ny 5.
We have two famous Adventist brothers, the Harding brothers. Dr. Harding, we have two brothers, Harding.
Misy Parl zany
Harding.
Harding.
And one of them started the School of Public Health.
Ray nandeha tany amin'ny toeram-pianarana amin'ny fahasalamam-bahoaka.
His brother was a minister, a theologian.
Ny rahalahy kosa dia teolojiana zany hoe mianatra pastora.
He got his doctorate degree by studying 6 languages of biblical times.
Nahazo ny doktorany izy tamin'ny fianarana teny anakenina izay ampiasaina amin'ny Baiboly.
He said, "Brother, you should be using Genesis 9:3-5."
Dia niteny izy manao hoe rahalahy tokony ampiasainao io voalaza amin'ny Genesis 7:7 hatramin'ny 5 io.
He said, in the original language, there's no question what it means.
Dia hozy araka ny teny original ny andohany zany dia tsisy tokony edikevitra mihitsy ny amin'izany.
For every animal that you kill and eat, your life will be shortened.
Ny amin'ny biby rehetra izay vononareo hoanina dia miena ihany koa miafoy ihany koa ny fiainanareo.
In the English, it's hard to understand.
Ary
It's hard to understand in English.
amin'ny teny anglisy ohatrany tsy dia tena takatra tsara izay hevitra izay.
But whether it says that or not, it doesn't matter,
Tsy mampaninona nefa na izay ny voalaza ao na tsy,
because that's what happened.
fa tena izay ny zava-misy izany hoe isaky ny biby vononao dia miena ihany koa ny fiampitoana iainanao.
The first 10 patriarchs lived over 900 years.
Reo patriarka teo aloha reo dia niaina tao nandritra ny 700 taona.
After the flood, meat was allowed,
Taoriny ny safodrano rehefa nomena lalana ihinan-kena,
the life expectancy went down into the 300s.
dia nanomboka ny niena zany izay halavam-piainana izay nidina hatrany amin'ny 300 taona.
So we know it did shorten life.
Ary hitatsika amin'izany fa tena nampiena ny fiampitoana iainana ny fihinanan-kena.
You could look at the age of the patriarchs in Genesis 5 and Genesis 11.
Jerenareo zany ny taonan'ireo patriarka ao ny Genesis 5 sy ny Genesis 2:12.
Now, scientifically, we know that in the blood and the fat of the animal is the heme iron.
Siantifika zany zao dia mahafantatra fa ao amin'ny rasy ao amin'ny tanga
It's iron. There's iron. Animal iron.
misy
Yeah.
fer animal zany ao amin'io raha io.
And we know that increases the risk of type 2 diabetes,
Ary zany dia mampitombo ny diabète type 2,
the risk of heart attack,
ary misy risque zany ny amin'ny fatapahan'ny crise cardiaque zany hoe areti-po,
and colon cancer.
ary ny homamiada ny tsinay.
Okay. Now, we also know the Bible teaches that rejection of a prophet is the same as rejection of God.
Fantatsika ihany koa fa ny Baiboly dia mampianatra fa ny fandavana ny mpaminana dia midika ho fandavana n'Andriamanitra.
1 Samuel 8:7 tells us that.
Raha miresaka tsika ao amin'ny Samuel voalohany toko 9 dia milaza an'izany.
Remember, the people wanted a king.
Tadidinareo ny tantara fa te hanana mpanjaka ireo vahoaka tamin'izany.
And Samuel complained,
Dia taraina i Samuel.
they have rejected me.
Efa nolavina izy ireo a.
And what did God tell Samuel?
Inona no lazain'Andriamanitra tamin'ny Samuel?
Though that they haven't rejected you, they've rejected me.
Tsy ianao no lavina izy ireo fa izaho no lavina.
Ellen White was a true prophet.
Ellen White dia mpaminany maro.
If she was not a true prophet, we would not be the remnant church.
Satria raha tsy mpaminany marina izy dia tsy olona fiangonana sisa itsika.
Revelation 12:17 shows the last church was to have a prophet.
Satria ny Apokalipsy toko 12:7 dia milaza fa hisy mpaminany amin'ny fiangonana farany io.
She is predicted in every way except by name.
Dia efa laza mialoha ny mombamomba ny mpaminany io izy afa tsy ny anarany fotsiny ihany.
Revelation 12:17 comes after the 1260-day prophecy.
Ny Apokalipsy toko 12 dia taoriana ny ilay faminaniana 690 andro.
So that means from 538 to 1798, then there's the time of the end.
Manomboka amin'ny 7:30 zany dia tonga amin'ny 7:7 ny taorianany.
And to make it more specific,
Ary tena mazava tsara ny zavatra voalaza eo.
go to Revelation 10,
Amin'ny Apokalipsy toko 10
verses 10 and 11.
ny andinin'ny 10 sy ny faraka ambin'ny 10.
Remember, he was to eat that, John was to eat the book. It was sweet in the mouth and bitter in the stomach.
Tadidinareo ilay hoe hihinana an'ilay boky izy ary mamy tao am-bavany zany fa nangidy tao an-kibony.
That we believe to be the great disappointment of 1844.
Efa milaza mialoha zany ilay fahadisom-pana tenana lehibe tamin'ny 1490.
So after that disappointment,
Ka taoriany io fahadisom-pana tenana io,
next verse says prophesy again.
dia ny zavatra manaraka dia hoe maminany indray.
That means you have to have a prophet.
Ny dikan'izany dia hoe nanana mpaminany iray ianareo.
So what year was that?
Tamin'ny taona firy zany?
1844.
1490.
Now all time prophecies have two prophets.
Ny vanim-potoana ny faminaniana rehetra na ireo zavatra mahakasika fotoana ho faminaniana dia misy mpaminany anankiroa mandrakariva.
One prophet who stands up and says, this is going to happen.
Ny mpaminany voalohany dia milaza hoe izao ny zavatra iseho.
But he doesn't live long enough to see it happen.
Kanefa tsy miaina ela velona izy mba hitany zany zavatra nolazainy tao amin'ny faminaniana izany.
When it happens, another prophet stands up and says, this is what was prophesied, here it's happening.
Fa rehefa miseho tokoa ilay zavatra dia misy mpaminany anankiray indray asehon'Andriamanitra miteny hoe izao ilay zavatra nolazaina tamin'ny faminaniana efa mitranga.
Remember Daniel 9:24 to 27.
Tadidinareo ny Daniel toko 7 ny 7:20 ka hatramin'ny 7:20
predicted about Christ's coming.
Resaka ny amin'ny fiavian'i Kristy voalohany.
But Daniel didn't live long enough to see that happen.
Kanefa tsy ela velona be i Daniel mba hahita ny fahatanterahany zany faminaniana izany.
But when it happened,
Fa rehefa niseho zany toe-javatra izany,
John the Baptist stood up and says, there's the man.
dia i Jaona mpanao batisa indray nitsangana ka niteny hoe ino ilay zanak'ondrin'Andriamanitra.
Now, Daniel 8:14 has the 2300-day prophecy.
Amin'ny Daniel toko 9 ny 440 dia misy ny faminaniana ny amin'ny 340 andro.
Daniel predicted it.
Efa nilaza an'izany mialoha Daniel.
He didn't live long enough to see it happen.
nefa tsy ela velona izy ahita ny fahatanterahany zany.
It indicated it came about when it happened was 1844.
Kanefa rehefa niseho zany io faminaniana mahakasika ny 4,790 io.
Who was the prophet who stood up and said, "Now's the time. This is what that prophecy is talking about. It's happening now."
Izy indray mpaminany izay natsangan'Andriamanitra mba ilaza hoe ity ny fahatanteran'ilay faminaniana izay nilazaina tany aloha.
Now I want to read you in this important statement from the Spirit of Prophecy.
Tiako ny amaky an-dalateny avy amin'ny faminaniana.
Volume 5 of Manuscript Releases,
Amin'ny manuscrit volume 5,
401.
takelaka raha sy
Ellen White said, "Avoid meeting,
dia niteny ilay White manao hoe aoka ialana ny finanan-keny
not because it is regarded as a sin,
satria tsy hoe heverinao fahotana izany
but because it is not helpful."
fa kosa tsy mahasalama.
Now James 4:17 says,
Jakoba 4:17 dia milaza indray manao hoe
"To him who knows to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin."
izay mahalala anao zavatra tsara kanefa tsy manao an'izany dia manota.
In Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 380,
Ao amin'ny torohevitra mahakasika ny sakafo indray takelaka 730.
she says, "Among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord, meat eating will eventually be done away."
Dia izao no lazainy anabava eto hoe amin'ireo izay miandry ny fiavian'ny tompontsika dia mazava ho azy fa hialana ny finanan-keny.
Flesh will cease to form a part of their diet.
Ny nofo dia hitsahatra ho tsy ho anisan'ny sakafon'izy ireo intsony.
Now, another concept in the Bible that you should understand:
Misy toe-javatra fomba fijery ao amin'ny Baiboly zany izay tokony ho takaritsika.
where are we to begin our part in the plan of redemption?
Dia ny hoe aisakay ny anombohany ny anjarantsika ao amin'ny drafim-panavotana.
Now, I want to read for you a quotation from volume 12 of Manuscript Releases,
Misy an-dalateny indray zany ao amin'ny manuscrit izay volume 12,
page 313 to 14.
pejy 313 sy 413.
It says, "Christ knew that in order to carry out the plan of salvation, he must begin the work of redemption just where the ruin began."
Dia izao no voalaza ny hoe fantatry Kristy fa mba natanterahana ny drafim-panavotana dia tsy maintsy manomboka eo amin'ny toerana izay nahalavony.
So Christ took up the work of redemption just where the ruin began.
Ka nanatanteraka ny asa fanavotana zany Kristy teo amin'ny toerana izay nahalava antsika.
It says the same is true of our experience.
Ary mitovy amin'izany koa ny mpanompo vavin'ny tompo ny fanandramantsika. Marina amin'izay zavatra ataontsika ihany koa zany.
We are to begin the work of reform just where the work of degeneracy is so keenly felt.
Manomboka ny asa fanavaozana isika eo amin'ny toerana izay nahalava antsika.
Adam and Eve sinned on the point of appetite.
Adama sy Eva dia nanota tamin'ny alalan'ny fitiavakomana.
Jesus started the plan of redemption at the same place.
Ary Jesosy ihany koa dia nanomboka ny asa fanavotana teo amin'ny toerana izay mitovy amin'izany.
Satan said, "Take these stones and make bread out of them."
Niteny tamin'ny Satana manao hoe ataovy ho tonga mofo ireto vato reto.
Now, another thing in the Bible about Daniel.
Misy zavatra ihany koa amin'ny Baiboly mahakasika an'i Daniel.
Daniel 1:8.
Daniel toko voalohany andiny fahavalo.
Remember, they purposed in their heart they would not defile their body by what they ate at the king's table.
Fa i Daniel dia ninita ao am-pony tsy handoto ny tenany amin'ny sakafo izay naroso tao amin'ny lamba.
They had been raised vegetarians. They had been raised vegetarians.
Izy ireo zany dia efa nitezaina ho tsy hihinan-kena végétarien.
Here it says they decided, as flesh meat had not composed their diet in the past.
Izao no voalaza ny boky ny faminina zany hoe nanapa-kevitra izy ireo fa tsy ho anisan'ny sakafo hohaniny ny nofom-biby tahaka ny efa nataony taloha.
Neither should it come into their diet in the future.
Ary tsy ho tonga ho anisan'ny sakafo hohaniny ihany koa io nofom-biby io amin'ny sakafo ny any amin'ny ho avy.
And as the use of wine had been prohibited to all those who engaged in the service of God, they determined they would not partake of it.
Ary ny fampiasana ny divay ihany koa dia voarara ho an'ireo rehetra izay manolo tena ho amin'ny asan'Andriamanitra, koa dia nanapa-kevitra izy ireo fa tsy handray anjara amin'izany.
That's the book in Heavenly Places, chapter 255.
Ao amin'ny boky hoe Heavenly Place io toerana any an-danitra, toko 5:50.
Now look up 1 Peter 1:15 and 16.
Raha jerentsika indray izay voalaza ny Petera voalohany, toko voalohany 5:50 sy 6:20.
We should be holy as God is holy.
Dia aoka ho masina ianareo tahaka an'Andriamanitra izay masina.
What did that mean?
Inona moa ny dikan'izany?
The people who are putting the Bible together,
Reo olona izay ao anatin'ny voalaza amin'ny Baiboly,
they put in the margin what that meant.
dia reo nanoratra amin'ny Baiboly zany dia nanao ohatrany marza misy note kely ery manambara an'izany.
About being holy.
Inona ny dikan'izany atao hoe masina izany?
The margin says, look up Leviticus 11:44.
Dia eo amin'ilay référence amin'ny boky io zany dia voalaza ao hoe ho anareo izay mamaky hoe jereo ny Leviticus toko 2:4.
From verses 44 to 47,
Ko amin'ny 2:4 ka hatramin'ny 7:20 zany
talks about the clean and unclean meats.
dia miresaka ny amin'ny hena madio sy ny tsy madio.
Of course, Leviticus 10:10 talks about the alcohol.
Ary Leviticus toko 10:50 dia miresaka ny amin'ny alkôla.
So much for the Bible, what it says.
Ka zay zany ny voalaza ao amin'ny Baiboly mahakasika an'ity hoe tsy finanan-kena ity.
Now let's go with what the Spirit prophecy says.
Andeha jerentsika indray hoe inona ny voalaza ny fanahy amin'ny faminanena.
She says, who should not eat meat?
Dia nilaza izy manao hoe izy ary ireo tsy tokony hihinan-kena.
Here's counsels on diet and foods 402.
Amin'ny torohevitra ho an'ny sakafo dia pejy 700 dia izao no lazay.
Let not any of our ministers set an evil example in the eating of flesh meat.
Aoka ireo pastoratsika tsy hanome ohatra ratsy amin'ny fihinanana nofom-biby.
Can we possibly have confidence in ministers who at tables where flesh is served join with others in eating it?
Tsika atao hoe miatoky an'ireo mpitandrina izay mipetraka eo ambony latabatra misy nofom-biby izay hohaniny ampifaleny.
Counsel on diet foods, page 290.
Ary eo amin'ny le boky teo ihany zany pejy 700.
Physicians who use meat and prescribe it for their patients should not be employed in our institution.
Ny dokotera izay mampiasa ny hena ary milaza an'izany mba ho an'ireo olona tsaboina dia tsy tokony ho ampiasaina ao amin'ny toeram-pitsaboina atsika.
What about teachers?
Ahoana indray ny amin'ireo mpampianatra?
No man should be set apart as a teacher of the people while his own teaching or example contradicts the testimony of God has given his servant to hear in regard to diet, for this will bring confusion. His disregard of health reform unfits him to stand as the Lord's messenger.
Tsy tokony hisy olona ho atokana amin'ny asa fampianarana ny vahoaka raha toa ka ny fampianarana na ohatra izay omeny manohatra ny fijoroana vavolombelona izay omena ny mpanompony mahakasika ny zavatra izay tokony hohanina. Hitondra fikorontanana izany ary ny tsy firarahiny ny fanavaozana ara-pahasalamana dia mahatonga azy tsy homendrika ny hijoro ho mpitondra ny hafatr'Andriamanitra.
What about students?
Manahoana indray ny mpianatra?
Counsels on diet foods
Ilay
389.
boky teo ihany torohevitra ny amin'ny sakafo pejy 7:7.
Students would accomplish much more if in their studies they never tasted meat.
Ny ireo mpianatra dia vita zavatra bebe kokoa ao amin'ny fianarana ataony raha toa ka tsy nanandrana velively ny hena izy.
When the animal part of the human agent is strengthened by meat eating, the intellectual powers diminish proportionally.
Raha ny ampahany ao amin'ny olombelona izay tahaka ny biby zany no ampaherezina amin'ny alalana fihinanana nofom-biby dia mihena mifanaraka amin'izay ihany koa ny hery intellectuel ara-tsaina, ara-pakingatsaina zany mihena raha ampaherezina amin'ny fihinanan-kena ny vatana.
But it sounds like Spirit of Prophecy meant that all Adventists should not be eating meat.
Raha fitinina zany zay dia tahaka ny hoe ny Adventiste rehetrarehetra mihitsy dia tsy tokony hihinan-kena.
Because on the same page she has this reference.
Satria izao ny zavatra lazainy ao amin'ny pejy io ihany 7:27.
A religious life can be more successfully gained and maintained if meat is discarded, for this diet stimulates into most intense activity, lustful propensity, and enfeebles the moral and spiritual nature.
Hoazo ny fahombiazana eo amin'ny lafin'ny fivavahana ary voatahiry zany fahombiazana izany raha toka ialana ny eny satria io sakafo io dia mitarika ho amin'ny fihetsika manetsika ny filana ara-nofo ary manalefaka sy mampalemy ny toetra ara-panahy sy ara-pitondrateny.
What about our children?
Manahoana indray ireo zanakitsika ireo ankizy?
On the same page is meat should not be placed before our children.
Ao amin'ny takelaka io ihany dia zany lazainy hoe tsy tokony ho apetraka eo anoloan'ny zanatsika ny hena.
What about everyone else in the church?
Ahoana indray ary ny amin'ireo olona sasany ankoatran'izay voatanisa ireo ao amin'ny mpiangonana?
She says not an ounce of flesh meat should enter our stomachs.
Dia izao no lazainy manao hoe tsy tokony isy na dia 1 grama amin'ny nofon-kena aza ho ampidirina ao amin'ny vavonitsika.
That's Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 380.
Ilay boky teo ihany a pejy 730.
But there's some people that will not be held responsible for this information.
Kanefa dia misy olona dia mbola tsy raharaha n'izany zavatra izay lazaina izany.
Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 69, says who's not responsible.
Ao amin'ny takelaka 720 zany no milazantsika hoe izy ary ireo olona tsy miraharaha n'izany zavatra lazaina izany.
She says idiots will not be responsible.
Dia hozy izy manao hoe ireo adala ihany ny tsy raharaha n'izany zavatra izany.
It's just a matter of which category you're in.
Dia tsy fantatra hoe any amin'ny sikajiny olona inona zany no misy anareo.
Now, everybody wants to know, will you not get to heaven if you eat meat?
Ngamba ny olona rela dia afantatra hoe tsy hiditra any an-danitra ve zany ianao raha mihinan-kena.
I want you to hear what the Spirit of God says about it.
Dia tiako ny ilaza aminareo ahoana ny voalaza amin'ny faminaniana mahakasika amin'izany.
Counsels on Diet and Foods, 380.
Amin'ilay boky teo ihany torolalana ho an'ny sakafo pejy 730.
Among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord, meat eating will eventually be done away. Flesh will cease to form a part of their life.
Amin'ireo izay miandry ny fiavian'ny tompo dia mazava ho azy fa hialana ny fihinanan-kena satria ny nofom-biby dia hitsahatra tsy ho anisan'ny sakafon'izy ireo.
Now, Counsels on Diet and Foods, 382.
Izay boky izay ihany pejy 730
says many who are now only half converted on the question of meat eating will go from God's people to walk no more with them.
Maro amin'ireo izay ny fiovampony dia ny atsasany ihany raha mahakasika an'ity hoe fihinanan-kena ity dia hiala tsy ho anisan'ny vahoakan'Andriamanitra ary tsy ara-dalana amin'ny intsony.
Now here's another one, Counsel on Diet Foods 403.
Misy andalateny indray ity ao amin'ny pejy 3:370.
Those who are in a position where it's possible to secure a vegetarian diet, but to choose to follow their own preferences in this matter, eating and drinking as they please, will gradually grow careless of the instruction the Lord has given. Let's see, regarding other phases of the present truth, and will lose their perception of what is truth. They will surely reap as they have sown.
Ireo izay eo amin'ny toerana izay azony ataony manaraka n'izany sakafo vegetarian zany kanefa mbola misafidy ihany ny anaraka ny filan'ny tenany manokana mahakasika an'izany, izany hoe mihinana sy misotro araka izay tiany, dia mazava ho azy fa tsy kelikely dia tsy raharaha intsony ny torolalana izay nomen'Andriamanitra azy izy ireo mahakasika ny resaka hafa mahakasika ny fahamarinana ankehitriny. Dia ho very ny fahaiza-mandanjalanja izy ireo ny amin'ny atao hoe fahamarinana ary dia mazava ho azy fa hijinja izay nafafin'izy ireo.
Now, here's a statement on Counsels on Diet Foods 381.
Fanambarana anankiray eo amin'ny pejy 2:370.
Those who have received instruction regarding the evils of the use of flesh foods, tea and coffee, and rich and unhealthful food preparations, and who are determined to make a covenant with God by sacrifice, will not continue to indulge their appetite for food they know to be unhealthy.
Ireo izay nandray toromarika mahakasika ny maharatsy ny fampiasana ny nofom-biby ho sakafo, ny dité sy ny kafe ary ireo zavatra hafa karakaraina kanefa tsy mahasalama, ary nanapa-kevitra ny hanao fanekena amin'Andriamanitra amin'ny alalan'ny fanoloran-tena dia tsy hanohy intsony hampanarana po ny fahazotokomana amin'ny sakafo izay fantatra fa tsy mahasalama.
God demands that the appetite be clean and the self-denial be practiced in regard to those things which are not good.
Takian'Andriamanitra fa tokony hodiovina ialana izany fahazotokomana izany ary ny fandavan-tena no ampiarina mahakasika an'ireo zavatra izay tsy tsara.
This is a work that will have to be done before his people can stand before him a perfected people.
Izany asa zany dia ho atao melohan'ny ijoroan'ireo vahoakan'ireo sy ny ahafahany mijoro eo anatrehany ho vahoaka masina sy tanteraka.
We need to learn that indulged appetite is the greatest hindrance to mental improvement and soul sanctification.
Ilaitsika ny mahafantatra fa ny fampanarana po ny fahazotokomana dia anisan'ireo sakana lehibe indrindra ho amin'ny fanatsarana ny lafiny ara-tsaina sy ny fanamasinana ny fanahy.
That's on counsel and diet food, page 4.
Ao amin'ny torohevitra momba ny sakafo pejy 570.
Why does she say we should not eat meat?
Nahoana no milaza izy fa tsy tokony hihinan-kena isika?
I want to give you an outstanding reference.
Dia misy référence tena miavaka ty izay omeko anareo.
Volume 20 of Manuscript Releases 374.
Ao amin'ny manuscrit volume 20 page 374.
The flesh of dead animals causes 9/10 of the disease in our world.
Ny nofon'ny fatim-biby no miteraka ny 7/10 aretina eo amin'ity tontolo misy atsika ity.
Now here's another statement, Counsel and Diet Foods 386.
Pejy 427. Torohevitra ho an'ny sakafo.
The liability to take disease is increased tenfold by meat eating.
Ny mety azonao hiteraka aretina dia mitombo amin'ny foloeny amin'ny fihinanan-kena.
Then Counsel and Diet Foods 387.
Pejy 727.
Brain,
Ny atidoha,
bone,
ny taolana,
and muscle
ireo hozatra,
were in
nofo
unwholesome condition
dia tsy ho salama velively
because they lived on the flesh of dead animals.
satria nofona fatim-biby no hivelomany.
And then she talks about a lady who's overweight, obese, and it says the eating of flesh meats has made a poor quality of blood and flesh.
Ary rehefa nanondratra ho anna vehivavy anankiray izay natavy be izy dia zao no lazainy hoe ny fihinanana ny hena izy zany natonga ny ranao sy ny vatatenanao ho tsy salama tahaka izao.
Do you realize that we as a church have recommended a pledge because of what Ellen White says?
Mahafantatrareo ve fa ny fiangonantsika dia manome toromarika mampirisika ny anaovana fanekena ny amin'ny zavatra izay nolazainy anabavy White io.
She says she signed the pledge every time she was asked to sign.
Amin'ny fotoana rehetra izay angatahana azy anasiniany voady na fanekena io dia soniaviny foana izany.
Now the first pledge was only on alcohol.
Ny fanekena na ny voady izay ataony voalohany dia makasika ny alkôla, zava-pisotro mamamo.
Now I want to read to you a dream that Ellen White had.
Zany hoe razaiko aminareo eto zany mba nofinofy ny Ellen White izay nananany. Nofy izay nananany.
About this alcohol pledge.
Makasika ny voadiny amin'ity hoe alkôla ity.
I dreamed that there was a large company assembled together in the open air.
Nanofy aho na nahita fahitana zany fa nisy fivoriam-be izay miaraka teo Kalamanjana.
And a tall young man that I've often seen in my dreams.
Nisy tanora rantsanana anankiray izay hitako tao amin'ny nofiko.
When important matters are under consideration.
Rehefa nisy zava-dehibe izay nodiniana.
Was sitting near the chairman of the meeting.
Dia izy nipetraka teo akaiky ny filohan'ny tarika ny fivoriana.
These people appeared to be the leaders of the church.
Ary olon'ireo zany dia tahaka n'ireo mpitarika ny fiangonana.
The young man arose.
Nitsangana ilay tovolahy.
And he passed to the men a paper that seemed to be the head of the company there.
Ary nandray izy nitsangana izy dia napasipasiny tamin'ireo olona mivory teo zany indrindra tonga tany ilay mpitarika ilay voalohany.
Here is a paper I wish you to attach your names to, every one of them.
Dia niteny izy manao ity misy taratasy iriko raha ny anaranareo rehetra dia ho atao ao.
He presented it to Brother A first.
dia nasehoany tamin'ny rahalahy anankiray na antsoina hoe rahalahy A izy moa.
He looked at it.
Dia nijereny ilay izy.
He read it out
Dia
loud.
nivakiny tamin'ny feo mafy.
You here pledge yourselves to abstain from all fermented wines and spirituous liquors of any kind.
Dia izao no tao anatin'ilay taratasy hoe eto dia mivoady ny fady ny zava-pisotro fermenté rehetra, ny divay fermenté sy ny zava-pisotro mahamamo na karazan'inona na karazan'inona.
And use your influence to induce all others that you can to follow your example.
Ary ianao izay azo atao amin'ny hery-miasa mangina anananao mba hitarika ny hafa rehetra mba ahafahany manaraka izany ohatra avelanao izany.
I thought Brother A shook his head,
Dia miveriko fa nandahany izany Professionnels,
saying it wasn't necessary for him to sign.
dia niteny manao hoe tsy ilaiko ny manao siniana izany fanekena izany na ny mametraka ny anarako ao.
He understood his duty.
Satria tsapany ny andraikiny,
He would advocate the cause of temperance anyway.
satria ilainy izany manohana ny amin'izany fahalalana onony izany.
But he felt not called upon him to bind himself to it.
Kanefa natsiaro izy fa tsy ilainy mamato tena amin'izany.
For there were exceptions sometimes.
Indraindray misy zavatra manokana ihany, exception.
He handed the paper to Brother B.
Dia nameny indray ilay taratasy napasiny nakeo amin'ny rahalahy be.
He looked it over carefully
Dia nijereny indray ilay taratasy nisy an'ilay voady teo.
and said, I'm of the same mind as Brother A.
Dia niteny izy manao hoe mitovy hevitra amin'ny rahalahy A izao.
Sometimes I feel the need of something to stimulate me.
Indraindray aho mahatsapa fa ilaina ny manao zavatra anankiray izay manentana.
And when I'm weak and nervous,
Ary rehefa matsiaro reradreraka iny sy nerveux reratsaina,
I don't want the pleasure, I won't ever use the pleasure.
noho izany tsy hanao an'io voady io ny tenako.
He looked sad.
Ary natsiaro malahelo izany
They passed
ilay.
that paper around to 20 or 30 people.
Ary sahabo olona 20 na 30 teo zany napaspasy ilay taratasy nisy an'ilay fanekena sy voady iny.
No one signed the paper.
Tsy nisy na dia iray aza nanao sinia an'ilay fanekena.
So, this man who first gave him the paper,
Ka ilay tovolahy izay nanome an'ilay taratasy,
he returned to the first two people he had given it to,
dia niverina tamin'ireo olona anankiroa izay efa nomeny an'ilay taratasy.
handed them the paper again,
Dia nomeny azy indray ilay taratasy.
said in a very firm, decided manner,
Ary niteny tamin'ny feo entitra sy feno fanapahan-kevitra,
yet in a low tone,
kanefa ampitiavana.
you, both of you,
Ianareo roa reo
are in the greatest danger of being overcome upon the point of apathy.
dia eo amin'ny toerana lehibe mampidi-doza izay tsy andresena ny fitiavakomana.
The work of reformation must commence at your table and be carried out conscientiously in every place, under all and every circumstance.
Ny asa fanaovaozana dia tsy maintsy manomboka eo amin'ny latabatrareo ary hoentina amin'ny faresen-dahatra any amin'ny toerana rehetra izay alehanareo sy amin'ny toe-javatra rehetra.
Your eternal destiny depends upon it.
Ny hoavinareo mandrakizay dia miankina amin'izany.
You both have strong points of character and are weak in some directions.
Ianareo reo dia tena manana karaktera, manana toetra entitra, kanefa misy fahalemena ihany hita aminareo amin'ny lafin-javatra sasany.
See what your influence has done. None of those others
Dia
signed.
mba fantatrareo ve ny hery-miasa mangina izay nataonareo, satria rehefa tsy nanasonianareo dia tsisy nanasoni daholo ny olona rehetra.
Again, he presented the paper in authoritative manner.
Dia naseho andray ilay taratasy tamin'ny fomba feno fahefana.
And he said, sign the paper or resign your position.
Dia niteny izy manao hoe soniavy ty taratasy ty na melamo ny toerana misy anao io.
Not only sign, but upon your honor, carry out your decisions.
Ary tsy hoe soniavinareo fotsiny ty taratasy ty fa aoka ianareo tena anatanteraka n'izay voalaza ao.
As God's messenger, I come to you and demand your names.
Mahiraka Andriamanitra dia tonga eto ary mangataka anao mba hametraka ny anaranao hanasoniana izany fanekena izany.
They were either to sign the paper or resign their position with the church.
Izany hoe na izy zany manasoni ilay taratasy fanekena na miala amin'ny toerana mampitarika ny fiangonana azy.
They signed the paper.
Dia nisoniaviny ilay taratasy.
Went around the table again, everybody signed it.
Dia rehefa nanasoni izy roa dia nanasoni daholo indray ny olona tao anatin'ny komity io.
Then later,
Taty aoriana,
after alcohol,
taorin'ny fanekenany amin'ny alcool zany
When tobacco came in,
dia tonga indray ny paraky sigara.
tobacco was added to the pledge. Tobacco was added to the pledge.
Zany hoe nampiana tao anatin'ilay fanekenana voa tokony atao indray ny tokony fadiana paraky sigara.
And then later, some people said, we should maybe talk about tea and coffee. Maybe add that to the pledge.
Taty aoriana dia nisy olona niteny hoe tokony atao anatin'ny fanekena io ihany koa ny dite sy ny kafe.
So Ellen White approved of all that.
Ary dia nikeny ilay White zany.
And she finally later said, even flesh meat should be added to it.
Ary taty aoriana ary izy dia niteny hoe tokony atao anatin'ny taratasy fanekena io ihany koa ny tsy tokony hihinana-kena.
See, Sister White was great in signing pledges.
Ary tena nanome ohatra ny amin'ny fanasoniavana n'izany fanekena zany ilay White.
She said we should have a pledge against novel reading. Novel reading.
Teny ihany koa izy manao hoe hita hoe tena tia amin'ity mampanaso ny fanekena ity mihitsy ilay White fa niteny koa hoe tokony hosoniavana amin'ny fanekena tsy hamaky tantara tsara, roman.
My dad is head of the Temperance Department of the General Conference.
Ny raiko dia anisan'ny tompon'andraikitra departemanta tao amin'ny conférence générale.
He had a pledge. He had people sign not to drink alcohol or smoke.
Dia hitako fa nanana an'izay taratesy fanekena izay nisoniavin'ny olona izay izy hoe tsy hikasika alcool na zava-pisotro mamamo na paraky sigara.
He went leaders to countries all over the world, asking them to sign a pledge as a government, in every government official program, they would never allow alcohol to be served.
Ary ny raiko dia nandeha nitety an'izao tontolo izao niaraka tamin'izany fanekena izany ka natany amin'ny fivorian'ny manam-pahefana gouvernement dia nanakana ny amin'ny ampiasana an'izany.
He had 50 people, cabinet ministers or above, who signed the pledge.
Ary nisy minisitra mihoatra ny 50 nanasonia ny fanekena tsy hikasika zava-pisotro mamamo na paraky sigara io.
Places like Saudi Arabia, India, that would become.
Toerana tahaka ny Arabia Saoudita, Inde nanaovany an'izany.
All right, now let's get to the scientific aspect.
Andao ary isika hiresaka indray ny amin'ny lafiny ara-tsiantifika.
You're going to live longer if you're vegetarian.
Ela velona ianao raha végétarien.
Gary Fraser did the study in California.
Gary ny California. In California.
He found that in the general population, the men who had the general diet, 19.5% of them lived to be 85 or older.
Dia nahita fa tamin'ireo nanaraka ny régime végétarien zany dia velona 5-20 taona mihoatra ny 7.5 isanjato.
But for the vegetarian men, Adventist men, only 48%, a lot more, 48.6%.
Zany hoe ny akapoben'ny fiarahamonina zany le olona dia 7.5 isanjato ny velona 5-20 mihoatra. Fa tao amin'ny Adventiste izay végétarien dia ny 7.5 isanjato dia velona mihoatra ny 5-20 taona.
The women live longer than the men.
Ary ny vehivavy dia mbola ela velona noho ny lehilahy.
So 39.3% of the women in the general population live to be 85 or older.
Ka ny 7.3 isanjato ny vehivavy ao amin'ny mponina anankiray zany dia ela velona kokoa.
But for the vegetarian women, the Adventists, 60.1%.
Fa ho an'ny vehivavy adventiste végétarienne dia 10 isanjato izay fa ela velona izay.
So there's no question that the vegetarian diet, those people on that live longer.
Ka tsy edikevitra zany fa ireo izay tsy mihinana fa tsy zava-maniry dia ela velona kokoa.
So I'm going over just 6 points of importance scientifically.
Ka misy teboka enina zany resako ara-tsiantifika makasika an'izay.
One is longer life.
Ny voalohany amin'izany dia ela velona ianao.
Second reason is they have longer life because they have less chronic disease.
Ela velona izy ireo satria ny faharoa dia tsy manana aretina mitaiza izy. Saikona izay ny antsoina hoe maladie chronique aloha.
Non-vegetarian men in their 40s had 4 times as many heart attacks as vegetarians.
Satria ireo olona izay tsy mihinan-kena zany eo amin'ny 50 taonany dia avy efatreny mety hananany an'izany aretina tahaka ny diabeta.
Non-vegetarians had 3.8 times greater risk of diabetes being on their death certificate.
Fa ireo
Yeah, non-vegetarian.
ireo tsy végétarien dia avo 3.9 ny riska ao amin'ny diabeta.
Non-vegetarians had 2 or 2.5 times greater risk of being obese.
Ny 2 ka hatramin'ny 2.5 isanjatony izay tsy végétarien dia misy riska ny ahatonga azy obèse, zany hoe matavy loatra.
Vegetarians had 40% less hypertension.
Ireo végétarien indray dia 70 isanjato no sansa, zany hoe 70 isanjato ny sansa tsy hananany végétarien, zany atao hoe fiakaran'ny tosidra zany.
They had half as much kidney disease.
Ary atsasany ihany koa zany ny riska ny amin'ny hoe aretina ny voro.
Half the risk of cataracts.
Ny atsasany no mety hanana an'izany hoe riska ny amin'ny areti-maso cataracte.
Half as much rheumatism.
Tahaka an'izay ihany koa ny amin'ny aretina rheumatisme.
Meat increases risk of colon cancer 88%.
70 isanjato no risky ny homamiadan'ny tsinay ho an'ireo izay mihinan-kena.
Increases risk of prostate cancer.
Dia mampitombo ihany koa ny homamiadan'ny prostate.
It increases ovary cancer 66%.
Ary mampitombo ny homamiadan'ny tranonjaza 70 isanjato.
It increases pancreatic cancer 2.5 times.
Ny homamiadan'ny pancréas.
So the first point is, if you're vegetarian, you live longer.
Ka ny teboka voalohany zany dia zao hoe raha végétarien ianao dia miaina ela velona.
The second point is you have less chronic disease.
Ny faharoa dia miaina ihany koa ireo aretina mety mahazo anao.
Third point is you have greater endurance,
Ary
energy.
ny fahatelo dia matanjaka kokoa ianao manana endurance bebe kokoa.
People on a high carbohydrate diet, which a vegetarian diet is, have greater endurance.
Zany hoe manana endurance matanjaka kokoa zany ireo izay manana sakafo betsaka ny carbohydrate, zany hoe ny végétarien.
The fourth point,
Ny fahaefatra,
you get more vitamins and minerals, more nutrition for the dollar you spend to buy the food.
mahazo otrikaina bebe kokoa ianao amin'ny sakafo miohatra amin'ny dolara na ny vola izay laninao, zany hoe mora kokoa zany ny végétarien.
The grains give you the most.
Satria ny
Most
voanjavatra
vitamins and minerals.
manome anareo an'ireo vitamine isan-karazany.
Next to the grains are the potatoes.
Dia ao anatin'ny manaraka ny voanjavatra ny ovy.
Then comes the beans and peanuts.
Dia manaraka eo indray ny tsaramaso sy ny voanjo.
And then the leafy greens.
Dia ny anana.
The worst buy for the dollar is sugar.
Fa ny ratsy indrindra andanina ny volantsika dia ny siramamy.
The next worst buy is just above that is meat and fish.
Ary ny ratsiratsy kokoa izay zany dia ny trondro sy ny hena.
It doesn't mean that there's no good nutrition in meat.
Tsy midika akory zany hoe tsy misy otrikaina ara-sakafo ao amin'ny hena.
It means it's very costly for the amount of nutrition you get. Very expensive.
Fa midika koa zany fa lafo zany mba azonao otrikaina izay ilainao.
The fifth reason why vegetarian diet's good.
Ny teboka fahadimy zany
Less danger to the environment.
Dia kely kokoa ny fahasimban'ny tontolo iainana amin'ireo izay mihinana végétarien.
Forests in South America are being destroyed to get land to grow corn to feed the animals.
Satria betsaka ny ala izay naripaka mba azona mamboly ny sakafom-biby.
Sixth good reason is
Ary ny antony fahaenina,
the scientists have so many recommendations of how we should eat.
dia ireo siantifika dia manolotra sosikevitra ny amin'ny tokony hoanintsika.
If you're a vegetarian, you can get that easily, almost automatically.
Ary rehefa végétarien ianao zany dia mora foana ny azonao azy ireny.
If you're not a vegetarian, it takes a lot of work to figure out how to do it.
Raha tsy végétarien ianao dia tena mila asa be mihitsy zany ny fieritreretana izay tokony ho atao.
I have pages and pages of more information.
Mbola betsaka ny ampotantaratasy eto anoloako milaza fanambarana maro.
But I know my next speaker is waiting for me to get through.
Kanefa ny manaraka izay teny aorianako dia miandrana hoe rovina ary amin'ny farany.
But we're to begin our part in the plan of redemption just where we fell on appetite.
Tadidio zany le hoe aiza manomboka ny drafim-panavotana eo amin'ny toerana izay nalavotsika dia izay toerana izay ny fahazotokomana, fitiavakomana.
And I have the statement, Daniel and his companions were vegetarians. That's why they didn't eat the meat.
Izay no fandresantsika teo Daniel sy ny namany dia tsy nihinan-kena.
Who among us are going to stop eating meat?
Koa iza amintsika no hijanona tsy hinan-kena zany?
Among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord, they are going to cease.
Amin'ireo izay miandry ny fiavian'i Jesosy dia tsy maintsy ho avy fotoana hijanonany amin'izany.
So my conclusion, the whole matter is,
Ka ny amaranako ny zavatra rehetra zany,
we should show people how scientifically it's better to be a vegetarian.
dia tokony aseho antsika ara-siantifika fa tsaratsara kokoa ny tonga vegetarian.
And because of our love for them, we are going to be very persuasive that they should be vegetarian.
Ary ny fitiavantsika azy ireo dia tokony handrisy lahatra azy ireo isika fa tokony ho vegetarien izy ireo.
Because we all want to prepare for the Lord's coming.
Satria isika rehetra dia samy te ho vonona ny amin'ny fiavian'i Jesosy.
And diet is part of that.
Ary ny lafiny ara-tsakafo dia anisan'izany fiomanana izany. Saotra tompoko.